Hello YouTube. Today I'm going to take you to the only remaining Revolutionary War era pub in Philadelphia, and we're going to have a happy hour beer right where the founding fathers enjoyed their own beverages after a long day's work. Now, as you might already know, Philadelphia is famous for its drinking culture. Such shows as, well, the most famous one recently being It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. It's a show about a bunch of guys trying to keep a dive bar afloat and failing spectacularly. But long before It's Always Sunny, this town has always been full of pubs. When you read George Washington's letters from the Second Continental Congress, he's always talking about how the Congress, he met with people at Seedy Tavern. You can read that in his letters from May 1775 when he arrived here for the Second Continental Congress. So pubs were always a big deal. In a previous video I also covered the Tun Tavern. The Tun Tavern was where the Marines started, and it was a recruiting ground. It's also where the Masons started. So it's a major recruiting ground for soldiers and other Philadelphians to get involved in civic life. Ben Franklin went there a bunch of times, and all sorts of famous people went to the Tun Tavern. Same with the Seedy Tavern. Paul Revere apparently even went to the Seedy Tavern, which is amazing. But all sorts of founding fathers went there. And I'm going to take you to the problem is with the Tun Tavern and the Seedy Tavern, the original buildings don't exist. They usually burned down, or the city tore them down because they were derelict after a while, or some developer developed them, right? So these buildings are fairly rare, and I'm going to take you to the only one that exists that's still there. There's a quick clip of the old Pine Cemetery where all those Revolutionary War heroes are buried. I love this time of year in Philadelphia. It's mid-May. The summer's perfect. Or summer's not here yet. The temperature's perfect. And it's such a good time to have a beer after work. And I'm thirsty, so I'm gonna look at the graves later and we'll get a beer right now. Let's go down St. Peter's Way. I love these little alleyways back here. These alleyways were, in colonial times, little cut-through paths through farms. You could stop here and it's probably somewhere you could water your horse. And nowadays they're just little alleys, but all sorts of little colonial buildings are built along the sides of them across the city, and they're just so beautiful. You can pretty much walk around all of Old City and Society Hill really on these paths alone. I think you could probably get across the whole neighborhood just on these paths without going on any major roads. So that's kind of fun. Now, one thing you also have to recognize, I have to mention it, is why did people drink so much beer back in the day? The problem with water is that it's contaminated, right? And beer, when you make it, beer goes through a fermentation process, and that fermentation process purifies it. So, when people drank beer back in the day, they weren't really drinking to get drunk. And to be quite honest, the beer that they drank back then, it wouldn't have really gotten you drunk. You'd have to drink a lot of it. really what they were doing was trying to survive, because the beer back then was maybe like 3%, 4% alcohol. It really wasn't that high. I mean, you know, Guinness, it's sort of like a Guinness back in the UK, right? It's not really a beer you drink to get drunk. It's more just to hydrate, because the water was contaminated and you needed to drink something. You know, that kind of then brings up the next question as we look down these little alleyways. Why did people go to taverns? You know, what were they drinking at taverns if they weren't drinking beer to get drunk? Well, they certainly were drinking beer, but what really did it was the rum. People loved rum in America, especially Philadelphia. Rum, bourbon later. Gin, I believe, although I think gin came later. Maybe some historian of alcohol can tell me. But rum certainly was the big drink of choice if you're going to get drunk in a tavern in Philadelphia, and many people did. Many people did. So, yeah, I don't think the establishment where I'm taking you to is going to serve rum or any hard liquor. It is really a beer tasting room for a brewery called Succession Brewery. And yeah, I won't beat around the bush too much longer. We're almost there. I'll show you in a second. Some sort of sugar maple, maybe? Not a sugar maple. That's just that's a silver maple, right? But a strange variety of silver maple I haven't seen before. There are the towers, Society Hill Towers. Yeah. Maybe some of you now, some of you Philadelphians know where I'm going, maybe. Kind of tried to take you on a little roundabout way so you couldn't quite guess. But we're almost there. We're almost there. Alright, here we are. Now this might be one of the most appropriate names for a pub in the entire country. Man Full of Trouble. Look at that sign. Isn't that amazing? Yeah, here we are. It's run by a brewery called Succession Brewery. We'll go in a second. You can just walk right in. No reservation needed. Just the little parlor in there. But this tavern has been closed ever since I was most of my life. But yeah, Man Full of Trouble Tavern, built in 1759 with the adjoining Pascal House. Last of the 18th century inns of colonial Philadelphia, owned by Colonel Blaithwaite Jones, who was in charge of Delaware River defenses of Philadelphia during the Revolution, and John Wood, famous clockmaker, restored by the Knauer Foundation. All right, here we go. Let's see what's inside.
The first thing he wanted to do was the Rocky Steps. I have photos of him, and it was like such a moment to watch this movie. The Rocky Run, and he did some whole jumping on the top, and it was like this. It was really beautiful.
I got a decision to make here. What should I get? I mean, Beer de Mars? I don't really know what a Beer de Mars is. But if you look, a lot of the alcohol is pretty low. It's 4%, 4%, 5%, 4%. And they're pretty intense. $9 for a 10-ounce pour. These are very intense. I'm thinking, well, I'll try a few, but I don't want to break the bank. But let's see. Maybe the Rustic Saison. We'll start with that one. Right. Here it is, the rustic saison. Yeah.
And basically they're reflects on it or anything, right? He's walking through and he's in German.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yep. Oh, it's pretty lively in there, so can hardly hear myself. But figured I'd sit outside. And yeah, I really like that they brought this back. This tavern's been closed since 1996, in the mid-90s sometime. And yeah, again, it's the only one that survived. The others all burned down and they're replicas or you know, they got closed. I think the Ton Tavern got demolished to build I-95 because that's what we do in America is we demolish history in order to build highways, right? So I always say that, and it's kind of true. But yeah, I'm gonna flip the camera around because this sign is so epic. Look at this. Look at that. Man full of trouble. Look at this photo. Look at that. Is that a photo of what it looked like back in the day before it was restored? I guess so. That's amazing. They did a good job. I'm gonna get another. This is good beer. It's all like farmhouse ales. It's really nice. Alright, I got another one. I'm not sure how far I'm allowed to wander, but it's getting a little crowded back there as you can see. So, this place is popular. People like it. This is called the Bière de Mars. I guess for some reason they have a lot of French beers here, which is kind of funny because, you know, with French beer, at least Belgian beer, they're usually higher alcohol, but these are very low alcohol. So I'm gonna just sit on this bench by the roses. And yeah, so this is called Bière de Mars, and it's from France, I guess. So. Yep, that's beer. A little fancy, but it's still beer. And yeah, so this has been the video. I don't have too much more to say, to be perfectly honest. There were apparently 101 breweries, so they say. I'm sure that number changed all the time, but at some point in Philly, in colonial Philadelphia, there were 101 breweries around here. Or taverns, I should say, not breweries. Taverns. And this one is the only one that survived in its original location, its original form, the original building. And so thank you to all the people who saved it. There's a guy, Mr. Wheeler, I believe his name is, not the pitcher. I'm wearing my Phillies gear. Go Phillies, but it's not our pitcher. It's a different Mr. Wheeler. He bought this place and he's restored it. So thanks to him and thanks to all the people who contributed money to make this happen. Thanks to Succession. This is a real Philadelphia gem. If you're in Philadelphia in the next year and a half, you should stop by Man Full of Trouble, and you know, you should get a beer and celebrate the founding fathers who probably didn't stop by this pub. Back in the day, this area was a little seedy. The camera cut out, of course, but yeah, this place was a little seedy in colonial times. It was down by the docks. It was at the south end of the city, basically close to the end of the city. South Street is just a couple blocks that way. And, yeah, so the founding fathers weren't drinking down here. This is where all the sailors came, and this is where you wouldn't bring your girlfriend here, as they say in the article I read about it. So yeah, but that's maybe why it survived, because it wasn't a very it wasn't a place of repute for a long time, right? It was not a place people paid attention to, and therefore it survived. Because one of the quirks of history that I've been learning as I've been going on these journeys in this channel is that a lot of these places are very out of the way, and I think there's a reason why they're still around. The places that survive tend to be places in history that no one really cares about, and this place was one of those. At some point, it was very seedy. The founding fathers didn't come anywhere near this. This was where working people came from the docks, sailors, and other, men full of trouble. They came to this pub. So, yeah, that's it. That's the video. Thanks for watching. My name's Sean. This is my channel, Saul Good, and this has been another great installment of History of Philadelphia. So I'm having a blast making this channel. Really appreciate it. If you want to subscribe, I'd appreciate it. I don't really want to ask. I don't want to say like and subscribe. I think that's kind of lame. But I do want people to follow along. So I'm doing various history series on the history of Philadelphia, and yeah, I appreciate all the support. The comments are always amazing. So thank you to all my viewers, and we're gonna keep having fun. Cheers.